Okay.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our first meeting of March for the Municipality of West Perth. Before we get started in our meeting, I would ask that we have a moment of reflection. There's a number of items that have happened since our last council meeting. Certainly the situation in Ukraine, I think, needs some thoughts and reflection on our part, and as well with the current incident that occurred in West Perth on the weekend. I think our thoughts and prayers are with the people involved in that unfortunate incident. So we'll have a moment of reflection at this time. Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll call the meeting officially to order. First item on the agenda is the confirmation of the agenda. Do we have a mover and seconder to confirm the agenda as it was circulated on the weekend? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Duck. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that is carried. Good, thank you. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, I don't see any. If you do find as we go along in the meeting that you do have a conflict, you can just declare it at that time, no problem. Okay, we have a number of items on the consent agenda. We actually have 15, quite a few, as a matter of fact. Is there anything there that anybody would like pulled or questioned and have it clarified? Don't see anybody's hand going up either. So, okay. Well, if there's no nothing in the consent agenda that anybody wants dealt with specifically or separately, motion that we approve the consent agenda would be in order. Do we have mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Harold. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Very good. So that brings us down to the delegations that we have tonight, and we do have a delegation with regards to the joint accessibility plan. And we have with us, I don't see them, but they will be joining us shortly from the County of Perth. We have Sean McCoy and Tyler Sager. Oh, they're at the bottom there. So very good. There's Sean, and Tyler is right beside him. Excellent. Very good. So anyways, Tyler, are you the spokesman, or is the other good-looking guy the spokesman?
Well, through you, Mayor, I'm glad that you both think we're good-looking, so I'll take that as a win. But I'll definitely pass it over to Sean. Sean's got a brief presentation, and he'll kind of lead the way on this one.
Okay. All right. So the floor is yours, Sean. Take it away.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. Through you, I'm just going to share my screen if you'll indulge me for a moment here. Sure. So you should be looking at the title page of my slide deck. If I could just get a nod. Yep. Okay,
it's
perfect.
Good. It's good, Sean.
Thank you. Okay, so as I said, Mayor McKenzie, through you to council, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide this report tonight. The report is before you, but I have a brief slide deck to run through. We're just going to cover basically like a high-level overview of the Joint Accessibility Plan update from 2021, as well as a general accessibility services activity update. And then following that, Tyler and myself will be available for any questions. But just before I jump into the presentation, I did want to take this opportunity to thank West Perth staff for their efforts in supporting this update. These updates are a collaboration between 5 different municipalities. And so while the county is responsible for compiling the information and packaging it into the report, there wouldn't be much to report on without the information collected and supplied by our colleagues at West Perth and the other lower tiers. So just wanted to take a moment to say how grateful we are for their partnership on this report. So the Legislative Services Division at the county basically has the role of providing accessibility support services to the county and the 4 lower tiers. And so this includes supporting and developing policies and procedures, helping to ensure our services and facilities are accessible, supporting AODA compliance and training, acting as a resource for concerns, and providing support to the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, or JAAC. So one of our annual tasks is compiling the update for the Joint Accessibility Plan. The current plan is in effect from 2018 to 2022, and it essentially formalizes Perth County Municipality's commitment to ensuring accessibility by removing barriers and meeting our obligations under the AODA. And to ensure the plan's effectiveness, by considering lived experience, it was developed in consultation with persons with disabilities and the JAAC. So the report before council today is essentially just an update of activities that have taken place in the last year that document our commitment to our municipal obligations in regards to accessibility. So the details of 2021's accessibility related activities are included in the report and are categorized by each of the integrated accessibility standards as per the regulation under the AODA. All of the compliance deadlines stated in the regulation have passed, so our accomplishments listed for the county and the lower tier municipalities are by and large just reflective of maintaining the good work we've all already done. And county accomplishments from 2021 are detailed in the update report, but one highlight from last year included providing a number of training webinars in collaboration with the Alzheimer's Society and accessibility consultant Julie Sawchuk. And this was made possible by a grant from the New Horizons Fund. So in terms of goals for this year, the county has accessibility figuring into a number of major projects. Of note, though, the county is currently preparing for the installation of an elevator in the courthouse and renovations to 5 Huron Street. And this is the building where Service Ontario currently resides. And these renovations are to create a new administrative space for county staff. And since 2022 will be the last year for the current Joint Accessibility Plan, another major accessibility initiative will be coordinating the development of a new multi-year accessibility plan in collaboration with West Perth and the other lower tiers. As per information supplied from West Perth staff and staff from the 3 other lower tier municipalities, accomplishments and goals had a number of common themes across the county for 2021. There was lots of focus on training, some aspects of improving some infrastructure facilities and establishing more online services or adding accessible documents and content. And as you can see here, I've just highlighted a few of the accomplishments from West Perth that illustrate a lot of this. So this is including the start of construction for the new West Perth administration building, implementing online marriage licenses, and securing a grant for a new power door at the Broadhaven Community Center, among other accomplishments. And these themes continue for 2022 with continued work on enhancing online content, planning the municipal election, including accessible voting methods, and a number of facility updates listed here. And this does include the installation of the power door at the Broadhaven Community Center. And as stated before, there are several other initiatives planned for 2022 as detailed in the report. So we also want to take the opportunity to highlight some of our accessibility services activities planned for 2022. In the 4th quarter of 2020, we implemented quarterly training sessions, and these are supplemental to the mandatory training sessions per the AODA and focus on different aspects of the accessibility standards. And we have received a lot of positive feedback from attendees on these, and so we'll be continuing this program for 2022. We will continue supporting the JAAC initiatives, which will include the installation of an accessible bench at the archives walking trail. And as always, we will continue to support the JAAC to facilitate site plan reviews and provide clerking services for their meetings. And of course, we always look forward to working with county and lower tier staff on an ad hoc basis as an information resource whenever needed. And just before I finish up here, I wanted to note that the version of the update in your agenda package is a draft. And once the update has been before all of the partner municipalities, a final version will be circulated for inclusion on your municipal website. That's going to incorporate just any feedback we receive throughout this process. And so that basically concludes everything I had to say here tonight in terms of the presentation. The report is before council, but Tyler and I are happy to receive any questions you may have. And also, if anybody thinks of anything later, feel free to reach out and contact us. And I believe the slides with the contact information are included in the agenda package.
Okay, thanks, Sean. So yeah, any questions? We'll direct the questions to Tyler. Just kidding.
Fine with me.
Any questions for council on that? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand going up. So very good report. Thank you very much. So we do have a recommendation here if nobody has any questions. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth receives the Joint Accessibility Plan Annual Status Update 2021 report, and that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth approves the Joint Accessibility Plan Annual Status Update 2021, and that the staff be directed to post the Joint Accessibility Plan Annual Status Update 2021 on the West Perth website. We have a mover and seconder for that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bell. Last chance for questions. Not seeing any. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Have a good night.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
All right, the next item, we do have a public meeting, so we do need a motion at 7:16 to go into a public meeting, recess council meeting, go into a public meeting with regards to some zoning amendments. So we have mover and seconder for that. Councillor Murray and Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, so Susanna is here and she is going to talk to us about that, I guess, when we get into it. But in the meantime, this public meeting is being held in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest by any member of council? Seeing none, at this time I'll ask Clerk Hobson for the purpose of the public meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this public meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth is to review the applications for a proposed amendment to Bylaw 100-1998, the zoning bylaw of the Municipality of West Perth, and to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments with regard to the applications. Council will not make a decision on the applications at this public meeting. Based on the recommendations and information received at this public meeting, an amending zoning bylaw will be presented for approval during the regular council meeting later this evening. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision on the applications, they are to provide their name and mailing address and email to me this evening via email at clerk@westperth.com. A person or public body may appeal a decision if they have made an oral submission at this public meeting or a written submission to council prior to the passing of this bylaw. Notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amending bylaws and to those agencies as prescribed by regulation. A sign advertising tonight's meeting was posted on the properties on February 15th, 2022. Correspondence received following the posting of the notice will be presented by planner Susanna Reed.
Thank you, Dan. So this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment. The application was initiated by Doug and Deandra Snyder and affects property described as Lot 12, Concession 14, 911 address 5478, line 12 of the Fullerton Ward in the Municipality of West Perth. I will now call upon Susanna Reed, planner for the Municipality of West Perth, to review the application. Susanna?
Thank you very much, Mayor McKenzie. This is a rezoning application. It's a condition of consent file B 4421, which was a surplus residence severance application. So the property is located in the Fullerton ward, as the mayor mentioned. Here it is, south of Fullerton. And the rezoning is for both the severed parcel. So this is a picture of the house on the severed lot, and the retained farmland. The severed parcel you can see on the air photo to the right is being rezoned from agricultural to A-1 to recognize a house that's not accessory to a farm. And the retained land is being rezoned from agricultural to A-3 to restrict the construction of a residence on the farm parcel. As has been mentioned, the notice of the application has been circulated. We haven't received any comments, and the planning department is recommending that the application be approved.
I'm having trouble unmuting here tonight. Thanks, Susanna. So I'm just kind of looking here, and I don't see any other people. Just the agent is there. Is the Doug is there? Okay. So at this time, I'll ask if there's anybody wishing to speak in support of the application other than the agent or the owner. And I don't see any. And is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition to this application? And I don't see anybody there either. So at this time, I'll give the agent, Doug Rome, a chance to speak if he so wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything to say. I'm just here in case there's any questions that arise during this process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. So is there any questions, any general questions or questions from council? Okay, I don't see anybody putting their hand up there either. So I would like to thank those in attendance for their comments. Should council proceed with the adoption of the zoning bylaw amendment, the notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act, and a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal is in effect. All right, moving on then to the next one. And it is another zoning bylaw application, and this is a continuation of a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment. The application was initiated by Doug and Donna McIntosh and affects property described as Lot 27, concession East Mitchell Road, 911 address 2557, Perth Road 163 in the Fullerton Ward. Again, now I'll call upon Susanna Reed, planner for the Municipality of West Perth, to review the application.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. So this property is also south of Fullerton. The red star here shows the location of the McIntosh property. And the McIntoshes have a special zone on the property. Oops, it's A-15. This is on part of the McIntosh farm. So the entire property is 51 acres, so including the A-15 and the A zone, 51 acres. And then the area that's just zoned A-15 is approximately 36 acres. That A-15 zone was on the property in order to permit a custom drying and storage business, which was removed in 2003, and also a snowmobile and small engine repair business that was sold in January of 2021. As the A-15, the property that the McIntoshes have there is being farmed, and they have applied to remove the A-15 zone from their property in order to remove the commercial taxation rate from the farm. So the property is an agricultural use. It conforms with the Perth County official plan to change the zoning to agricultural. And the planning department is recommending that the application be approved. As of the date of preparing the report, and I don't think I've heard any comments from the public or agencies as a result of the circulation.
Okay, again, thank you, Susanna. So we'll get into the, I guess, the formal part of the public meeting. At this time, I'll ask if there's anybody that wishes to speak in support of the application other than the owner or the agent. And I don't see anybody. Anybody in opposition? And I don't see anybody either. So again, the agent wish to have any comments at this time?
Just to clarify, I am not the agent on this. I
Oh,
was
okay.
an agent on a different file for the same clients, and I think that's what's caused the confusion there.
Okay, all right.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, no problem. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
very good, Doug. Is there any questions from council with regards to this? Okay, I don't see anything. So again, I would like to thank those in attendance for their comments. Should council proceed with the adoption of a zoning bylaw amendment, the notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act, and a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal is in effect. So it brings us down to a resolution that the Council of Municipality of West Perth now closes this public meeting at 7:25 p.m. and reconvenes to a regular council meeting. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Matheson and Councillor Murray, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, so we're back into open council again now. Next item on the agenda again is for Susanna, and we do have a report from Susanna with regards to an application for consent to sever Eckert Acres Limited. So Susanna, I'll let you take the floor again.
Thank you. This is an application for surplus farm residents severance. So for consents, West Perth Council is a commenting agency. So this application is being brought to council for your comments. The Eckers have acquired a farm, lot 11, concession 3 in Fullerton Ward. This is the location of the property. And the house on this property is accessory or is surplus to their farm operation. They also have a house on their home farm, which is located at lot 18, concession 4, Fullerton. Some photos of the property. This is the house on the severed property, on the property to be severed, and the farmland. And here is an air photo showing the land to be severed is outlined in yellow. And then the retained parcel is in red. So the severed parcel is approximately 1 hectare, which is 2.47 acres. And the retained land is 31.1 hectares, which is about 76.8 acres. The application has been reviewed against the policies in the official plan. And there are detailed comments in the planning report. The planning department recommendation to West Perth Council is that council recommend to the land division committee of the county that the application be approved with conditions listed.
Okay, questions for Susanna on this application for severance? And I guess the answer is in the report. I think I read it in the report, or I read it somewhere. It's maybe a little larger severance than what we would maybe like to see, but it's because of the well, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So just go back to the severance sketch is submitted. So here is the severed parcel, and the well is located in this shed here. So the policy in the official plan is that the severed parcel include a minimum amount of agricultural land, only what is required to support the house, including services. So because the well was located within just at the edge of the severed parcel, the planning department recommended, supported the application as submitted. If that's something that council would like to comment on, certainly that would be appropriate.
All right. Questions from council? Don't see any. Everybody seems quite content. Okay. We do have a recommendation here with regards to this severance application, and it is that the Council Municipality of West Perth received a report entitled Severance Application B1/22 submitted by Eckert Acres Limited on behalf of Eckert Acres Limited for lands described as Part Lot 11, Concession 3 of the Fullerton Ward of the Municipality of West Perth, and that West Perth Council recommend that the County of Perth Land Division Committee approve the severance application B1/22 submitted by Eckert Acres Limited on behalf of Eckert Acres Limited for lands described as Lot 11, Concession 3, Fullerton Ward, Municipality of West Perth. And there are 12 conditions there. And with your permission, I won't read all 12 conditions. They've been there for your perusal on the weekend. So if that's okay with you, we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Matheson. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of this recommendation? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Okay, moving on to the next one. It's a consent to sever B4/22 by Tom and Marilyn Reedy. And again, Susanna, I'll let you walk us through this one.
Thank you. This is also a surplus farm resident severance application. The location of the property is Lot 14, Concession 12 in the Logan Ward. And here is the red star is indicating the location of the Reedy property, which is closer to Moncton. I have a couple of photos that were taken during a snowstorm, actually. So this is a picture of the house and the barns on the property, which are proposed to be removed. And then these are showing the barns and the side of the house. And this is the west side of the severed property. Here are some aerial photos, views of the severed property. So the severance is 0.37 hectares, which is about 0.92 of an acre. That's the size of this severed property. And the retained parcel is 25 hectares, which is just shy of 62 acres. The planning report reviews the policies in the official plan for surplus farm resident severance applications. And the planning department is recommending that West Perth Council recommend to the Land Division Committee that the consent application be approved with conditions.
Okay, again, thank you, Susanna. Any questions for Susanna at this time? All right, I don't see anybody. So we do have a similar recommendation, and that's that the Council Municipality of West Perth received a report entitled Severance Application File B0422 by Tom and Marilyn Reedy affecting lands described as Lot 14, Concession 12 of the Logan Ward, Municipality of West Perth, 911 address 5945, line 49, and that Council recommends to the County of Perth Land Division Committee approve the severance application file B0422 by Tom and Marilyn Reedy affecting lands described as Lot 14, Concession 12, Logan Ward, Municipality of West Perth, 5945, line 49, subject to the following 11 conditions. And as customary, I won't read the 11 conditions. You've had them for the weekend. Okay, do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Duck and seconded by Councillor Tankowski. Discussion? Don't see anybody. So all those in favor of that recommendation? Opposed, if any, and that is carried. Thank you. All right, so we have one more consent to sever application B3/21, Bornholm Poultry Limited. And Susanna, I'll let you walk us through this one as well.
Okay, thank you. So this is the third surplus farm resident severance application, and the applicants are Bornholm Poultry Limited. Their farm is Lot 26, Concession 14 of the Logan Ward, and this is the location of the farm here. Bornholm Poultry also owns another farm with a house. And the home farm is lot 18, concession 8. Here is a picture of the photo. I was there in September. That's standing on the road and looking at the house, and a little bit closer to the house, and there's also a shed on the property. It's a picture of the shed and a picture of the retained land. So that one of the considerations for this property, you'll note that in the planning package, there's correspondence from the chief building official. So one of the considerations, one of the requirements of the surplus farm resident severances is that the house be habitable, and it's the intention to keep the house. So following my visit to the Bornholm poultry site, it seemed prudent to ask the chief building official if he would visit the house and provide comments with regards to the habitable nature. And you can see in the package that his conclusion is that the house is habitable, while there's a number of improvements that could be made. So this application was also one of the discussion points was whether or not the septic system was fully on the severed property. So the applicant has demonstrated that the septic system is fully on the severed property. And with those comments, I'm certainly available to answer any questions. At this point, the planning department is recommending that West Perth Council recommend to the Land Division Committee that the application be approved with conditions.
Okay, thank you, Susanna. Any questions from council members on this application? Again, I don't see any, and I had wondered about the building inspector's comments on that particular one, but you clarified that, so good. If there is no further questions or any questions at all, we do have a recommendation here. And the recommendation is that Municipality of West Perth received the report entitled Severance Application File B30 21 by Bornholm Poultry Limited, affecting lands described as part of Lot 26, Concession 14, the Logan Ward, Municipality of West Perth, 911 address 6609, Perth Line 53. And that council recommends that the County of Perth Land Division Committee approve the severance application file B30/21 for the lands described as part of Lot 26, Concession 14, Logan Ward, Municipality of West Perth, 6609, Perth Line 53, subject to the following 11 conditions, and they are listed there and were listed there for your perusal on the weekend. Do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Rose and Councillor Trinkowski. Any further discussion? Okay, I don't see anybody's hands up. So all those in favor of that recommendation? That is carried. So very good. Thank you, Susanna. Very good. So that moving on then, our next item then is into reports, and the first one is the Chief Building Officials report. So Bob, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. First report is for the month of January of 2022. We had 7 building permits for just over $1.8 million in construction value and 7 zoning certificates. The permits are listed.
Okay, any question on those permits? Oh, sorry, Bob. Sorry, Doug.
Sorry. Do you have any indication when they're going to get natural gas on Wimpole Street for that 3-plex?
No, I haven't had that discussion with the contractor yet.
Okay, I just was wondering because to finish it, they have to have natural gas, and I was kind of hoping Enbridge would.
You're
show
correct.
up. Maybe Jeff will contact the new guy. He sent a letter to us.
Yes, they need full services to move that from a model home to an occupied home.
Okay, moving on then, next item, Bob.
Next is my February report. We have a few more permits. We had 11 issued for the month, just over 2.4 million in construction value. Notice there's 4 new homes issued for the month of February, so residential is still a hot commodity.
Okay, any questions on that report? Okay, and I see here that we have them split up into 2 monthly reports, so I guess we'll deal with them that way. So the first recommendation is that we accept the January building permit summary report for information. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Vink and Councillor Matheson, all those in favor? That is carried. And then the second one is that we accept the February building permit summary report for information. Mover and seconder for that. Councillor Tam and Councillor Bell. Any questions on that one? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. So anything further, Bob?
Oh, we have everything starting to ramp up with the weather improving, but we do have a few site plan agreements that are coming very shortly.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Right, the next item then is the library board report. And Rosemary, I believe, is on here somewhere. There she is. Okay, good evening, Rosemary. So I'll let you do your report.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The library board met on February 15th. I believe you have the minutes in front of you. Just a few highlights from that meeting. The board members did review and approve the 2022 library budget proposal that was presented to council the following week on February 22nd. Regarding the capital projects that are slated for the library this year, a request for quote for the replacement carpet that was posted to bids and tenders did close. That was a few weeks ago, so that will move ahead. Also this week, the CEO's office will be relocated to another area of the library so that the current office can be used as a much needed staff workspace. And finally, the strategic plan for the library board will be moving forward. They'd like to go forward with the next strat plan, which will go from 2023 to 2027. So they have approved that and the process will be starting. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on that.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Any questions for Rosemary with regards to the library board? Okay, if not, I have a recommendation here that the Council Municipality of West Perth accepts the West Perth Public Library Board meeting report as information. Moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next report is the operations manager. So Mike is there. So take it away, Mike.
Evening, Your Worship, and the rest of council. February's operation manager's report on first item is health and safety. During the winter storm event on the weekend of February 19th, we had an incident with one of our snowplow trucks. It completely rolled over on line 29. The driver was uninjured, a little shaken, but he was all right, and we are still awaiting to assess the entire damage to the truck. We were one of 2 municipalities to declare a significant weather event under the regulations of Ontario minimum maintenance standards, and this was the first time that we actually implemented that clause and that bylaw. So if there's any questions regarding the snow event, I think my staff went above and beyond and did a great job dealing with that snow event. We haven't had one of those in maybe 7 or 8 years, like those past 2 days of Saturday and Sunday. So I'd like to thank my staff. Otherwise, in the operations, we're continuing winter maintenance. Our main goals are course grading, ice blading, pothole repairs, and tree removals over the next month. While we hopefully winter ends, we'll demobilize all of our winter stuff and start into our spring activities. We received a tender on Friday. Attached in your package is the recommendation report. It was a tender closing for Georgina Street and Henry Street reconstruction. It was in 3 phases. The first phase was Georgina, the second was Henry, And the part 3 was the surface asphalt which is to go on Georgina and Henry the following year in case there's any settlements. We had 4 bidders submit tenders last Friday morning at 10 o'clock. We opened them up in council chambers, myself and Dennis Elliott from BM Ross. You hopefully have the new recommendations report. Dennis Elliott was able to go through the numbers and found 3 mistakes on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place bidders and adjusted the numbers. However, it did not change any of the placings, and McCann Ready Mix submitted a tender that was had no errors. We are just below the budget, so the numbers all are in line. The roadwork estimates in your pre-approved budgets are lower than what was submitted, which would help out the general levy. However, the user fee rates have increased. However, the projects are on budget. More than happy to answer any questions on that report.
Questions, Councillor Tam?
Yeah, Mike, is McCann just getting into street construction like the whole package, or I don't recall them ever bidding on anything that we've done before.
So they dabbled in it in 2020, and in 2021 they started into the full reconstructions. So BM Ross is familiar with them. I believe they did. I forget which project it was. It was in Huron County that they did a significant project for them. So BM Ross is familiar with their work and their crews and their personnel and staff there. It'll be our first time dealing with McCann Ready Mix, though.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to stick my neck out here, and Mike, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but you may want to throw me under the bus here. I think what we'll do is we'll accept your report, but I'm wondering if we can, the recommendation with regards to construction, if we can hold that off until after the closed portion of our meeting tonight. Would that be okay?
That's up to you. Yeah.
Well, I think it'll give us a little more clarity what's going on here, but with council's permission, I would suggest that that's what we do. We accept Mike's report, and then following the closed session, we'll come back and do the recommendation for the street, if that is okay. A simple nod would maybe help me and give me some guidance here, people. Okay, thank you. All right, so the recommendation is then that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accepts the February Operation Manager's report as information. I have a mover and seconder for that one, Deputy Mayor Wright, and a seconder for that, Councillor Harold. Okay. Everybody ready? You got a question, Dean, or just your anchor to vote?
Yeah, I apologize, Your Worship. I should have raised the question earlier, but I wasn't fast enough getting my hand up. Mike, just going back to the rollover for the plow truck, has that incident given any cause for an internal review of our procedures when we deploy our equipment in weather events, extreme weather events like that? Just thinking in terms of loss prevention for the equipment and the safety of the workers. Thank you.
So just to give everyone an update on how we actually proceeded that day. So all of my staff were in at 4 o'clock in the morning. They started and commenced work. Visibility was becoming an issue, so we pulled them all off the road. We got them all back to the shop and had them sit and wait wait for first daylight. Once daylight hit, and the operators thought it was opportunity and safe to go back out there. Once again, they did. A couple of times they did pull over. It just so happened that during that incident, the operator completely lost visibility, touched the brakes, was going down a hill, and then gravity took over. So I think the way and what the operators did were correct and proper. It's just one of those freak incidences where visibility was lost. We are going to be reviewing the data, the truck data, to calculate and figure out the speeds of the truck. And move on and assess the situation.
Okay, other questions? I think you maybe mentioned it in your report. We were just one of two incidents that day. I believe in Huron County, they had a rollover as well. Well, there was Huron County or one of the municipalities in Huron County, but happened for the very same reason, I believe. If there's no further questions, then I think we had a mover and seconder for that recommendation, didn't we? So we just hadn't done the vote yet. So all those in favor of that recommendation? Opposed, if any? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. All right, so we'll come back to the second recommendation then a little later on. So the next report then is our treasurer's report, and it's the capital carry forward projects for 2021. So Wendy, I'll let you explain this one to us.
Good evening, everybody. So this one outlines the projects that have been identified as carry forward from 2021 that are coming into the budget for 2022. And it outlines how they were kind of financed in the budget. And there is basically a carry forward of $475,875. So essentially this would go into reserve for 2021, and then we pull it back out for 2022 to pay for the projects.
Okay. And have we not traditionally done this in other years as well?
You may have, it just maybe bringing it to your attention that we're doing it.
Yeah, we used to, I think maybe at the end of the year, we used to pass a motion that all surplus funds or all funds not spent be placed in surplus or something like that. I think is how we had done it before. This is fine. Do you have a question, Nicholas?
I was just going to repeat exactly what you said there. Maybe just not listed by project, but done by department.
Just by the department, yeah. Okay. Any questions for Wendy on that? Okay, if not, the recommendation is here that the Council Municipality of West Perth direct staff to allocate the following 2021 carry forward capital projects into reserves as of December 31st, 2021, and that these projects be funded from reserves in 2022. And they're listed there. I can read them off, I guess. Dublin washroom project is $12,500. Fire hose and pagers, $16,194. Transportation services, automatic vehicle logger, $25,000. Nelson Street construction, $89,000. Ontario Street construction, $10,426. Transportation services, a 3/4 ton pickup for $47,755. And a transportation services, again, a tandem dump truck for $275,000. So we have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Matheson and Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. All right. Down to year-end surplus deficit report.
Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight that we would like to bring the 3 years together in a report once the 2021 year end has been completed and the financial statements have been prepared. And based on our audit this year, we're anticipating those documents to be completed and presented to council either the end of June or beginning of July.
Okay, any questions for Wendy on that? Nicholas, go ahead.
Sure. If we won't have the surplus information from a 2021 yet, and that might not be completed, like you said, until June or July, then I would like to maybe pull that back to budget discussion, where if we don't have all of the information, then I would like to encourage us to peg the budget at 2.5%, somewhere in that range. So I'm not sure if we're doing this budget deliberation without all the information, then I have a hard time setting it based off of without that information. So then I would encourage us to maybe along those lines set it at a certain rate until we have all of the information.
Okay, thanks, Nicholas. Any other comments? Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, your worship. Wendy, if we don't have this report in our hands at the time that we finished budget deliberations and passed the budget, are we still in compliance with the requirements of the Municipal Act, or are we out of compliance with the Municipal Act by not having this document when we pass the budget?
So to answer that question, Councillor, it's under section 290 of the Municipal Act. It says that we should look at the surplus deficit of any previous year in preparing the annual budget. But because we're dealing with 2019 and 2020, we haven't addressed those surpluses or deficits either. We just thought it would be fair to bring in 2021 at the same time and deal with all 3 years at once.
Supplementary, Dean?
Yes, your worship. Wendy, I understand that, what you're attempting to do. My question is more about, are we in compliance with the Municipal Act by handling it in such a fashion?
It doesn't say the immediate year, it just says within the annual budget process. So I'm not sure if that's worded that way for a little bit of leniency. We can definitely check into it and get an opinion on it.
Yes, I would appreciate receiving an opinion, if necessary, from our municipal legal counsel.
Okay, so noted, Dean. Nicholas, you had a question?
I guess we already have the surplus from 2019 and 2020 because we have the audited financial statements done there. So we can pull that forward if we needed to, I guess. But I'm still worried that if we're not going to have all the information when we're deliberating the budget, then we don't need to put as much pressure on ourselves to get it in at a certain number. Let's pick a tax rate that we're comfortable with, and then we can carry on once we have all the information.
Okay, yeah. Okay, any other questions for Wendy? All right, the recommendation here then is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accepts the year-end surplus deficit report for information. A mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose and Councillor Bell. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. All right. Next item then is the clerk's report and with regards to the COVID-19 vaccine policy review. So Dan, give us your thoughts.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. Before you tonight is a report on the COVID-19 vaccination policy and administration's bringing forward a review as per policy, albeit a little before the deadline. But our recommendation at this point is that we look at repealing and removing this policy. There is a bylaw further down if Council so wishes to follow that recommendation to repeal the policy tonight. This would be we would be the first municipality to do this within our Perth County for sure. And following, we had a joint emergency control group meeting today, and CAO Brick let our partners know of our intentions of bringing this forward to Council tonight, and we really didn't receive any feedback one way or another on it. So I'm happy to answer any questions Council may have at this point in time. You're mute.
There we go again. Sorry about that. Any questions for Dan on that? And I guess if anybody's feeling a little uneasy about this, or that we're the first, we can always do it at a future meeting too. There's no problem there. But Dan has done the research, and it's before us tonight. And his recommendation is that we basically change the policy or remove the policy. Councillor Duck.
You said that we'd be the first county, or sorry, municipality in Perth County. Have any other counties in Ontario or municipalities in Ontario gone away with this policy?
I can't speak to that fully. I haven't seen anything come up with quick looks and anything like that. So I don't want to say no, and I don't want to say yes, because I'm not 100%. I'm sorry.
Other, Nicholas?
I guess just like before, we still have to follow the provincial regulations and recommendations on COVID screenings to attend certain events, and vaccination passports if they're implemented or not implemented. So having this additional policy, I don't think adds much value at this moment when the province is still regulating it.
Okay, so noted. Anybody else? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand going up here. So the recommendation is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth direct the clerk to provide a bylaw to repeal bylaw 85/2021, the COVID-19 vaccine policy. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Councillor Trinkowski. Again, last chance for questions. Deputy Mayor Knight.
So this policy wouldn't take effect for 2 weeks, because it says here you're not bringing it back, Daniel, till the 21st. It wouldn't be tomorrow. It would be on the 21st of March. Or are you trying to make it sooner?
I did it now. That's my first time, I think. We do have the repealing bylaw on this agenda. And if council wants to pass that bylaw tonight, it's up to council. They can, and if council doesn't want to pass it tonight, we'll bring it back at the next council meeting. But we wanted to provide the option.
Okay. Comments? Any further comments? Okay. Gotta have a flashback here. I read the recommendation and we got a mover and seconder for it, I believe. Did we not? Yes. So if there's no further questions, all those in favor of the recommendation? Just keep your hands up so we can see here. All those in favor? Okay, opposed, if any? So that motion is carried. All right. And we can have a further discussion when it comes to the bylaw if you want to defer that until the next meeting, if you want, like when we get to that point tonight.
Yeah, and that's absolutely up to council. The policy had the built-in review on the March 21st date, so maybe that's why it's being discussed that way. But if we repealed the policy tonight, it would be done.
Right. Okay. Yep. All right. The next item then is updated West Perth site plan guidelines and site plan bylaw.
Thank you. So again, I want to thank Susanna and Bob for all their support through this process. So what we've done today is we've reviewed the site plan guidelines for the municipality of West Perth. We actually utilized Julie Sawchuk, who was noted earlier in the joint accessibility presentation as well, to go through the site plans, and they've been provided to council for review. At a high level, it's been a cleanup and really pegging things to the standards that are required in legislation. So you'll see, as opposed to stating what the requirement is, we've kind of made more of a living document in the essence that as the legislation change or requirements change, the document will automatically follow suit and not require review as often that way. Additionally, what we're looking for today is to bring site plan approval authority through to CAO, CAO BRIC in this case. And ultimately what that will do is just streamline the process. It wouldn't be required to come through to council for approval. And I will point out that Susanna Reed is also on the call today, and she would have a bit more of a technical expertise in this process than myself would. So we'll both be able to answer any questions council has.
Okay, thank you. Susanna, do you have anything further to add?
No, I think Dan did a great job, but if you have any questions, I'm available.
So I guess the only question that I would have is in other municipalities, is this the norm that the CAO would approve them?
Susanna, do you want to speak to that one at all?
It's not uncommon. I can't speak, I haven't reviewed all of the Perth County site plan approvals. I know in Perth East, it's been delegated to the CAO.
Okay.
And the bylaw is structured such that at the CAO's discretion, if a further municipal review is required, that he can bring it to council for their decision.
Okay, good. Thanks, Susanna. Any other oh, Dean has a question. Councillor Jankowski.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, either Susanna or Dan can maybe reply to this or both. So under this new way of doing things, the CAO reviews the site control or the site plan. What happens if there's the proponent or the person or party submitting the plan and the CAO don't agree to disagree on how that submission should look like? Like what's the dispute resolution mechanism or the remedy mechanism involved? Because if council's no longer dealing with the submission process, I guess I'm unclear as to how an impasse could be resolved between the person making the submission and the CAO.
Susanna?
Sure, I can answer this question. So the process would be the same. The process is unchanged. So when staff is contacted and there is an application for a site plan, we would have a pre-consultation meeting and we would identify any municipal study requirements. Usual requirements is a functional servicing report for stormwater and connection to municipal services. And there may be additional studies that are required for the site plan application. Then when the application is submitted, it would be accompanied by the identified studies. Staff would review it, and then when we are satisfied at a staff level, we would be recommending approval to the CAO rather than to council. With regards to the dispute process, like with council approval, if the applicant has a concern with the decision of the CAO, there is an appeal opportunity for the applicant only through Section 41 of the Planning Act.
Dean, again.
Through you, Your Worship, I guess you'll have to help me out, Suzanne. I'm not familiar with Section 41 of the Planning Act per se. So what, to whom does that appeal go? Does it go to another staff, or does it go to the LPAT tribunal, or does it go to council, or where does the appeal go to? Like, I just curious to know how it's handled or how it's dealt with.
Right. Yeah, of course. So the appeal is to the Ontario Land Tribunal. That's all appeals through the Planning Act go to the Ontario Land Tribunal.
Okay, I guess one further thought or comment, Your Worship, if I may, that to date, the LPAT hasn't been very kind to West Perth, so I would be concerned. I would be concerned that council doesn't have a voice in trying to resolve disputes directly with the proponents. That's my concern.
Councillor Rose, did you have a question?
Yes. What advantage is there to taking it out of the council's discretion, I guess, however you want to say it, and just solely on our constituents speaking to us and trying to tell us what's going on? Will that not be lost if it's just strictly with the CEO?
Okay, we lost a little bit, or at least I lost a little bit of you, Murray. But I think the gist of your message is, will something be lost when it goes to the CAO as opposed to coming to council? Is that the gist of what you said?
Yes, being that we have the people coming to us and saying either they're for it or against it, so we can kind of get a feel for what the people are thinking. I was just wondering if that would be lost when it's just in the hands of the CEO.
Okay. Susanna?
Yeah, the reason behind the delegated approval is in order to make the application process more efficient. That's the intention. For a site plan application is very specific in that it regulates the way a site is used. So lot grading and drainage, stormwater management, servicing, entrances, egresses, planting strips, landscaping. So it's very specific with regards to how the site is used. There is no circulation requirement, so there's no public meeting required for a site plan process or application. So the reason why the delegated bylaw is brought for council's consideration tonight is in order to make the approval process for site plan applications more efficient.
Okay. Jeff?
And if I can just add, Mayor McKenzie and Susanna covered it really well. It's a very procedural process. And what we're finding is the main holdup is we need to get it scheduled into a council meeting. And since it's very procedural, we're just proposing that delegation to save that. If there are any cases where there is controversy or it's not routine procedure, of course, those are the situations where we're going to bring those matters to council as one that will have council approved rather than having procedurally approved by the CAO.
Okay, and I think that maybe kind of answers Dean's question at the last there, maybe, as to what's the mechanism if there's an issue with the CAO.
Yeah, and so if I may, I mean, that's where when we go through the application process, and again, Susanna said it extremely well. I mean, there's a submission, there's a report prepared by staff, a recommendation made to the CAO. If there's any dispute about that recommendation or any concern about it, obviously that's the decision-making process that we'll use to take it to a council meeting rather than have it approved at the CAO level. Our experience with these and experience in Perth East is a perfect example. Procedurally, council is really being asked to rubber stamp, and we're trying to, like other municipalities, move those decisions to staff to make things most efficient.
Okay. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Wright?
It still has to be brought to the CAO by a company like MTE, correct? Jeffrey? Mr. Brick?
Yes.
It's not like you write the book. The book is written by whoever submits the proposal. MTE brings it, and it's just.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I talk about it being procedural, there's a very detailed guideline, and Susanna, again, in the presentation of this report, it's a very clear and detailed guideline. There's very clear expectations. Most of these decisions are not objective or subjective, they're very objective. Do they meet the requirement? Do they have the frontage they're supposed to have? Are they within the coverage? If those answers are all yes, it's not a complex decision whatsoever. And again, if there's any difficulty with that not being met, that's a case where, or if it's, and perhaps Susanna would want to offer other cases we might choose, but if there's an application that, has an extraordinary amount of community interest or some other scenario, those are the ones that we'd bring to council for council approval rather than having them approved by the CAO.
Thanks, Jeff.
Go
ahead, Susanna, sorry.
Just to say that the intention of this project, revising the site plan guidelines and the updated bylaw that provides approval authority to the CAO, is to make the site plan approval process more accessible to developers in the community and make the process more efficient. So what we intend to do, if council is supportive, is to be posting the updated guidelines on the West Perth website so that we can be directing developers to those guidelines, and then they can see everything that is required at the time that they are wanting to submit a site plan application. And the intention then is in making the process extremely comprehensive and transparent, So the developer can have at their ready everything they need to know for the site plan process. And then once, and thinking that that would allow them to prepare their studies in a more efficient fashion, then at the point that the site plan application and supporting studies is completed, it would be reviewed by municipal staff, and finding that staff are have no outstanding issues, then staff would be providing a report to CAO with a recommendation, which we would generally assume would be approval, that we would be working with the developer until we got to that point.
Councillor Brink had a question.
Yeah, so you said efficiency a few times. So if we take out council out of the equation, maybe that adds 2 more weeks. Does the new process then shave half the time off? That instead of a year-long process, it's now 6 months, that if I need something done, I can get the site plan in 6 months' time instead of a year?
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to guess with regards to anticipated timelines for future applications, but the hope is that we would, through having a very comprehensive guideline, that that the developers would have the information that they need at the ready.
And actually, I'm happy to answer that question. My experience with development approval processes is that there are times when the application sits with the municipality to review and comment, and there are times where the developer is responding to comments provided by a municipality. And many of the concerns that come in often lose sight of the fact of how long an application is sitting back with the developer to fulfill requirements for approval, or to provide additional information, or to answer questions from staff. I've seen many cases where those are sitting for 2 or 3 months, and then 5 days later the phone's ringing asking, why haven't you approved it? And it's been sitting with you for 3 months. That's not the case, Nicholas. And I just want to be really clear that we're doing our best to process these applications as quickly as we can. The very routine applications can be moved along as much as 2 or 3 weeks quicker, and we also have other things that we can make better use of council's time. We've had this on our agenda since Adam Bettridge was with us, and Adam started this process in the report and wasn't able to complete it, and we're now getting to it because we think it really will tighten up the routine applications.
Thanks, Jeff. Other questions? Okay, I'll read the recommendation here, and we'll see where it goes. Recommendation is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accepts the updated West Perth site plan guidelines and site plan bylaw report as information. I have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Matheson, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Wright. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of this recommendation? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. The next item then is with regards to council meetings, and we had a little brief discussion, I think, on this at the last meeting, and this is coming forward now. So Dan?
Thanks again, Your Worship. So yeah, before council today, we've put a report there, and basically we're looking for, I'm going to use an all or nothing approach, and we reached out to some colleagues across Ontario in this case, and I can confirm that a lot of them have spoke very highly of this approach, whereby council either, or decision makers, because this would flow through to committees of council as well, but whereby decision makers are either all in person or all on a Zoom, such as we are tonight. To start, we can certainly offer that hybrid mentality for presenters or for some staff to keep numbers in the rooms down, etc., as needed. But this is just one option out there that's being presented, and we think it is a good fit. Albeit we are not the decision makers for the municipality, so we are very interested to see at what comments and feedback we get from council. But I think council is well aware of all the other options, and by all means, a hybrid approach really is being the only other one, which is something that's likely always been offered to council. Just it would not be historically hasn't been provided in a Zoom function. It would be a speakerphone type option, and it's rarely been utilized in the past. So anyways, I will be happy to answer any comments or questions council may have that I can provide some rationale from our recommendation, but otherwise we're happy to hear from council.
Okay, questions for Dan on that recommendation? Apparently, we're not the only council that was going to have that at their meeting. I believe it was one of the municipalities in Huron County was also having that discussion, I believe, tonight as well, to go whether they go in person or Zoom, one or the other. I think the comments that were made by that particular mayor was that Zoom was starting to wear a little thin on the council members. So, Jeff,
I should just add that, and I never had a chance to talk to Dan about this today. The one municipality that did comment today, and I just never thought of this until now, was that the county is actually been participating in a kind of a hybrid format for quite some time now. Walter and Doug perhaps would want to comment on that, and they felt that it worked well for them. I do want to say that in our case, we tried hybrid meetings, kind of formally tried hybrid meetings, and I think our staff concern is that the kind of equitable nature of the amount of counselors that are on a screen and the kind of screen time and just the sort of ability of some counselors that have a camera very close and some where there's 3 on a camera, that doesn't seem equitable to me, and I have some concerns about how fair that is to the governance process. And so I would say, if you want to look at hybrids as a real exception, we're not offering them as a general option.
And Doug can maybe comment on this, but I know certainly at the county, the way it's set up for people at home or that you're on Zoom, basically you can see 3 people at one end of the table, and then whoever's sitting on the sides, you can tell there's people sitting there, but you have a hard job trying to figure out who they are, I think, don't you, Doug?
For the way this works a lot better than a hybrid meeting, because you can see everybody.
That's right.
You're going to still videotape all the meetings live for participation. That's going to be a disaster because you're not going to be able to see anybody unless Daniel has better equipment than I think he will. So if the public is watching, because you're not going to let them attend, I'm assuming. Like right now, there's 21 people on this one. We had a high of 24. 24, we're going to have our meetings, I'm assuming, in the arena. Correct?
No, not necessarily.
No?
We were going to attempt to meet in person in the auditorium here, in the building here. We think the Wi-Fi here is a little more stable and can support that better here. So, I mean, we would start by all means with keeping the public and, as I said, some staff functioning through Zoom or through a hybrid option. But really the approach here we're looking for is to just get the decision makers, again, kind of in an equitable, either we're kind of all in and we're all in person here, or we're all on Zoom, and that's just what we've heard has worked well and a little bit easier. And I know there's lots of different options out there that we can try, and we're open to them. And we are looking at better cameras as well. We have some quotes out right now for AV design, particularly more in the new council chambers in the new building, as opposed to our current setup or the auditorium setup as well.
Certainly, it's not unique. You look at some of the other municipalities, and I'm thinking of the City of London and maybe some of the larger ones, but they certainly have the capability that when whoever is speaking, the camera is on that, and they maybe have an IT person there holding the camera that zooms in on whoever's doing the talking. I'm not sure, but certainly something that we can look at because I do think it's important that for people at home, if they want to watch, that they can actually see it. Other questions for Dan on this one? Okay, the recommendation is here. So the recommendation is that the Council Municipality of West Perth directs the clerk to make changes to the procedural bylaw to prohibit hybrid meetings for decision makers, and the council directs the clerk to prepare for an in-person meeting for March the 21st, 2022 regular council meeting. And you know, if you're uncomfortable with that date, I guess it could be moved to the first meeting in April if you wish, but that's the date. We had to come up with a date, and that's the date Dan has come up with. Nicholas?
I'll move that, Walter.
Okay, move, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Tam. Any further discussion on that? Don't see any. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Okay. Moving on then, again, to do with council meetings and an amendment to the 2022 West Perth council meeting schedule. Dan?
Thank you again, and I'll be done after this. We're just looking to bring forward a special meeting for March 28th for budget approval process. Obviously, I would acknowledge the conversation council's had earlier today about having all the information before making a decision on budget, so we can certainly deal with that when the time comes. And some rationale for the 21st that we just had before was that we could maybe get some kinks out if there were any before the 28th meeting. So we can move forward with that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So just for clarification, Dan, there's still a meeting on the 21st. There will be an additional meeting on the 28th.
And strictly a special budget meeting on the 28th. There'd be no other agenda items.
Yeah, okay. Questions? Don't see any. Mover and seconder. Councillor Duck and Councillor Rose. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, good. Thank you. We have 3 items under correspondence, one from the Urine Perth Public Health and one from Ministry of Northern Development, Mines and Natural Resources, and then another one from for information from Enbridge Gas. The motion here is that we accept the correspondence as information, unless there's somebody that wants to comment on anything. If not, a motion that we accept it as for information would be in order. Councillor Murray, and do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Harold. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. All right, moving on then. We do have, whoops, I got 2 pages stuck together. We have, yep, council reports, that's where we're at. We do have the Mitchell BIA minutes from February the 2nd. Councillor Bell, anything there you want to highlight? Okay, I think you said no, I didn't hear you, but no. I saw your lips move.
No, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Nope, I think it's pretty straightforward. Thanks.
Okay. Sabo Bayfield, Councillor Tam, anything there you want to highlight?
No, I think we're good. It's you got the minutes of the December meeting and then the agenda from the February, the annual general meeting.
Right, okay. And then Anna Marie, Upper Thames Conservation Authority, they're meeting also from February the 17th.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was a good annual meeting, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, once again, is there any questions on any of those 3 conservation authorities? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand going up, so the recommendation is that the Council Municipality of West Perth accepts the reports from councillors as information. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Bell and Councillor Duck. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, we do have a number of bylaws here, 5 to be exact, and I'm just having a quick look here. They all can go together. So first one is bylaw or zoning bylaw 259 for property described as Lot 12, Concession 14, which is the Snyder one. The next one is zoning bylaw 260, which is the McIntosh one. And then the next one is bylaw 24 is to retain and appoint Aird and Bearless as the integrity commissioners for the municipality of West Perth. And I think we did have a bit of a discussion about that at an earlier meeting, maybe. I'm not sure. It might have been at the county. I'm not sure. But we go together as a group, and they were the ones that we've used for the last number of years. And
that's correct. Council had agreed with the county and the lower tiers to extend the retainer agreement. This is simply bringing forward now that retainer agreement for an extension. The agreement though is confidential document, so that's why it's not attached to the bylaw. So we're just looking for authority to enter into it.
Right. Okay. And then bylaw 25 is a bylaw to repeal bylaw 85, which is the COVID-19 vaccine policy. And bylaw 26 is the bylaw to designate a site plan control area pursuant to section 41 of the Planning Act and to repeal bylaw 106, 2015. So those are the bylaws. The recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth gives first, second, and third and final reading to zoning bylaws Z 259, Z 260, and bylaws 24, 25, 26, the 7th day of March. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Tam and seconded by Councillor Vink. Any further discussion? Concerns lumping them together? Dan?
I would just add, Council, just so it's very clear that bylaw 26, 20-22, the site plan control area is also the appointing authority to the CAO. I just don't want that to be an oversight.
Okay. Again, any questions or anything on that? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand going up. So the recommendation is then that that we give first and I think I read it, didn't I? That we give first and second and third final reading to those bylaws. But I didn't have a mover and seconder, I don't think, did I? No. Okay, so we did?
We have Councillor Tam and Councillor Vink.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. So we're ready for the question. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. See, I wouldn't make a very good auctioneer. I'd forget what the last bid was. All right, then we have bylaw 69 being a bylaw to authorize the use of internet telephone as an alternate voting method for the 2022 municipal election and during the advance voting period. And we get a mover and seconder, and if there's any further discussion on that, I guess we can have it at that time. But mover and seconder on that? Councillor Murray and seconder? Councillor Vink. Okay, any discussion on that? I know we've discussed that, I think, at a previous meeting, and this is the bylaw coming now to further ahead. Councillor Rose.
Just for some clarification, the option to still have paper ballot is still available, correct?
Dan?
Passing the bylaw would not prohibit the paper bylaw or the paper ballots. What it would limit us at this point is bringing in those tabulators, so that would be the counting of the ballots. So if council wishes to see the plan for the election brought back again, I would recommend that we can have that direction from council, but we would, as we said before, we're planning on having a limited number of paper ballots, and the election will be primarily internet and telephone based voting.
Correct, but there is still the opportunity for, I'll use as an example, some of our seniors that could still do it if they chose to, correct?
Correct, and we are working with both, working with Ritzvilla for the villa and for the nursing home to actually potentially just run a full paper election in those two ridings, I guess I'll say right now.
Okay. And besides that, would there still be something, say, at the town hall? Would that still be an option?
you're thinking on election day, they can come in and use a
Yeah,
ballot.
just
on
election day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, again, there'd be we'd have a limited number available, and we would be pushing people to internet and telephone voting.
Okay. Thank you.
But you can tell them, Murray, they can still only vote once, okay? All right, so we have a mover and seconder for that bylaw. Any further questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Announcements are there. The next meeting is the 21st, of course, and then a special meeting on the 28th, and then we get into April for some council meetings. Any notices of motion? I have some background noise here from someplace. I'm not sure where, but sounds like somebody was trying to talk, and I don't see anybody's lips moving. So, okay. Any other business at this time? So we do have a closed session. Oh, sorry, Dan.
I would just point out that there was still the item on the tender documents if council wanted to either to make a decision on that item, or if we wanted to, in fact, postpone it until we had more budget information at a later date and time, or whatever council wished to do there.
Okay, I maybe misunderstood. I thought that maybe we could deal with it when after we came out of closed session. And I thought we'd have the closed session discussion, and then we might be able to make a decision on that at that time. But I think, Mike needs to know as well. But we can postpone it to the 21st or one of the budget meetings if you wish. Jeff?
Mayor McKenzie, I'd suggest that your original recommendation was that we wait until after we come out of closed session, so we can revisit it after closed session.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks. That was what my intent was, that we come out of closed session and then go back and deal with that one before we close the meeting off tonight. So, okay. All right. So we do have a closed session here, and the recommendation is that we proceed into closed session at 8:36 for the purpose of addressing advice that is subject to a solicited client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, sidewalk maintenance and legal opinion, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial information that belongs to the municipality or local board that has monetary value or potential monetary value, which is the Earth Corporation update. And finally, proposed or pending acquisition or disposal of land by the corporation. And it's basically a donation in exchange for a tax receipt. And finally, personal matters about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees in the finance department. So if we can have a mover and seconder for that, and then I have one question for clarification to somebody here, Dan or Jeff. So moved by Deputy Mayor Wright, and seconder for this, please. Take my pick here. Councilor Chinkowski. The question that I am posing, and I'm not sure if it's to Dan or to Jeff, what staff do we want to keep for closed session?
Thanks, Mayor McKenzie. So the manager's operations manager Kramer is going to stay on. Treasurer McMurray, Dan, and myself, and I think that's it. Dan, unless you had wanted any other assistance.
If you're not opposed, I would ask our deputy to stay. Okay, just for the meeting aspects of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we had mover and seconder for that, right, Dan? And we haven't voted on that. So all those in favor of that motion? That is carried. So we'll take a minute or two to go in closed session. You want to stretch your legs and grab a glass of milk or something until we come back here and ready to roll again.